Together in Gassho. I am a piece in the Buddha's golden puzzle of love and life that connects the world. I must keep my peace bright and strong. I will try to be kind and honest with all beings, including myself. I will try to think clear and helpful thoughts, to speak clear and helpful words, and to do kind and helpful deeds, knowing that on what I do now depends not only my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. May every piece in the Buddha's golden puzzle of love and life become bright and strong, and may we all realize and become perfect peace. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Okay, Happy New Year. What makes it happy? That it's new. Yeah, so we always like new things. Yeah, and because we're not satisfied with what we have, so we always expect something new, something exciting, something different. But to appreciate this present moment, I think, is the deepest gift in life. To just appreciate this moment here and now just as it is, because it will never be repeated again. That's the awakening that we're all aspiring to realize, not as a belief or a concept, but as just a sense of our being. Recently, and Susan, I don't see Dharma school kids.
Well, there's
Owen. Owen? Is he still considered Dharma school kid?
Because he's in grade. No, I'm not his teacher.
Oh.
I've been his teacher for a long time.
Okay. Well, that was the plan, or that was the instruction, that I was supposed to address the Dharma school children and then they would be excused.
Okay, please excuse us.
Oh, you're excused.
Well, are you going to tell us something about, besides we don't need to like leave stuff when we're here in the moment?
Then you're expecting something new and different. And that's what causes your dissatisfaction. No, well, I was going to talk about this interesting little marketing thing I learned from my grandkids called LOL. LOL? Yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, it's such addictive things, apparently. And what it is just a little plastic thing that's wrapped up. And then you unwrap it, and then you open it up, and it's full of all these little other packages that you unwrap. So the attraction to it is that you're always unwrapping something new. And that basically it's a larger version of, remember, while were they still around, those vending machines with those little plastic things? And you it used to be, 5 cents and get 10 cents and then became quarter. Now it's $1 or whatever. I mean, Japan, they have a whole section of some of the department stores. That's all they have is these vending machines with all these little plastic things in them that the kids, and it's at the ground, at the kids level. So they can't miss it. So that's but LOL is another version of that, where it's these plastic things that's wrapped up, and the kids just unwrap them, and then they open up the container, and then they start unwrapping the little packets inside. And it's basically the same junk stuff that's in those vending machines, but they just packaged it differently. And so the kids' enjoyment is just unwrapping and opening up these different things. And that's called LOL, and I forget what it stands for, but it's geared towards girls. But now I recently heard that now they developed a version for attracting boys. And I don't know what they call those. But just be on the lookout as parents and grandparents. And if you see them, and I see them at Walmart, not Walmart, what's that, Target. But just if you ever hear your kids talking about LOL, kind of distract them. Because it's just endless stuff that they're just opening up, basically, not to get anything other than the enjoyment of opening up that little toy or those plastic things that are inside these containers. Okay, so that was going to be a warning for the Dharma school children that it's not to open up new things, but it's to just appreciate what we already have, and that's this idea of gassho, that everything we really need, we're able to appreciate just as we are. Gassho is to show us that. Or as the Girl Scout project pointed out, that Kelly, Sarah, and Sydney shared, the theme of that was, you are not alone. To always remember that we are not alone. We do not live alone. And that's what gassho for me symbolizes. This sense, this feeling of not being alone. That we are living because of everything around us that supports us. Okay? So, well, Owen, you've heard this already. That's why it's not too interesting. But it's interesting to see how that understanding can become deeper and more real, not as just words, but just a sense of being alive with that awareness of not being alone. Okay?
Thank you.
So you can go keep Mrs. Sakuma company, because she doesn't want to be alone. So I guess it's been a few weeks since I had the opportunity to be here to participate with you as the BCSF Sangha. And some of you, I guess looking around, I think you're all aware of, that I'm still here. Because officially, according to one BCA update, I was supposed to have retired on December 31st, 2019. But circumstances changed after that announcement, and some people got it, some people didn't. And then that's why last Sunday I was at Emmanji. Oh, not Sunday. January 1st, January 1st, I wasn't here for the Shushoe, the New Year's Day service, because I was invited to Emmanji as the recently retired BCA minister, so they figure, well, he's available now, so then they invited me to go to Emmanji for the New Year's Day service. And a lot of people say, best wishes on your retirement, things like that. And I had to clarify, so no, that's not happening right now. So I've kind of done a little detour or a postponement of that plan. I mean, eventually I'm hoping to be able to move, but for the time being, I'm here to try to carry on as best I can while being still, this is something for your consideration, a candidate as the BCA bishop. Even though I was not officially selected as the bishop-elect by the selection committee, I'm taking the position that that's not the final decision. The selection committee made their decision to review and interview the candidates, and each one, then after that, the selection committee had to come up with a decision as to who they would recommend to the national board to become the bishop-elect. So the selection committee did make a recommendation of Reverend Harada. And that's fine. That was the decision of these 16 people on the committee. But they're not the ones that decide. Even though practically in the past it's kind of been passed through. Ultimately, it goes to the Monshu eventually, for the Monshu, this young guy here, and whoever advises him, saying, okay, this will be the new BCA bishop. Okay, so that's the process. So anyway, the National Board received the recommendation, and they kind of basically passed it through, saying, okay, and now it's going to go to the National Council meeting, which is made up of all the BCA temple representatives. Every BCA temple is represented by one lay leader and their minister. And then the affiliate organization, which includes the BWA, let's see, what other affiliates are there? So anyway, there's these affiliated organizations of BCA that are represented on this National Council. And they receive the recommendation, and then they say, okay, or the word is ratify. But what ratify means, I don't know. Yeah, means okay, I guess. But does that entail any further discussion? Or is it saying, okay, move on? And then they pass that, send that over to Monshu for his final decision, okay, or approval. And so that's the process. So as far as I'm concerned, yeah, the selection committee, they did make their recommendation. But if you're reading what I'm reading as the guidelines, you would say then, therefore, each of the other steps, which is the National Board, should have opportunity for further discussion, review, consideration before they make their decision. Okay? And then, so in February at the National Council, it should be the same situation of the National Council representatives should not have the feeling that they're obligated to just accept what the selection committee decided. Okay, so in that respect, I'm still considered a candidate, technically. Because there is a provision that at any of these steps, the body, whether it's a national board or national council, can decline the recommendation and make a new recommendation. So that's why I decided I'll postpone the retirement for the time being and see where things go from here. Okay, but I'm bringing this up because it does have implications for the Sangha here, because my position was that I would not take that office as a full-time responsibility, that it would be shared with continuing as a part-time resident minister here and part-time in the office of bishop. And that's got some kind of blowback, because some people say, no, you can't do it. You have to be full-time. And that was okay. I mean, so basically, my theme, I don't think I shared it yet, but when I gave the interview, we're supposed to give an opening statement. So I began by saying, no quid pro quo and no status quo. Okay, that was my position. So no quid pro quo and no status quo. So I just said, I'm thinking out of the box. I'm thinking about how we can do things differently. So I was the one I was there as Obama to promote change, to look at how we can do things differently. Because that's how I hear, from people I listen to, the need for our Sangha, Buddhist Churches of America, is change. Maintaining a status quo is like, trying to patch up this Titanic. You keep patching it up so much, but eventually it's going to sink. So my proposal was, let's build a new ship. And so part of that was to stop sending people to Japan for ordination and ordain our own ministers in America. So again, some of the people on the selection committee, they all had questions, and there were some people kind of concerned about these things, and some actually just told me out front, wow, you're pretty radical. And I said, thank you, because that's what I intended to be. Because I don't have a career, right? I'm ready. I had one foot out the door, so I wasn't concerned about what my future career is going to be as a result of making these proposals. So I'm just going out the door saying, let's consider these things. I had no notion of trying to make this overnight revolution of everything, but just to begin a process of making changes, to be able to look at how we interact and how we function as a Buddhist Sangha here in America. And I didn't presume that I'm going to make that happen in 4 years. So hopefully these ideas would have some traction so that whoever comes after me will be able to continue. And that's all I'm saying here for BCSF too. That I don't see anything that's going to change overnight, but at least to begin to consider different ways of living as a Buddhist Sangha in America, beginning in San Francisco and beginning with each of us. So that's the whole idea of this collaboration of within this idea of new kinds of interactions, new ways of expressing our appreciation of our Buddhist tradition. And so these are the kinds of thoughts that inspired me. But what was really interesting, just by coincidence, I think I already mentioned, right, the article in Lion's Roar magazine. It's just an interesting coincidence when I was getting ready for that interview or that meeting, selection committee meeting, and thinking about how do I present, these ideas. And I just happened to read this article in this magazine called Lion's Roar, and it included an essay by a young woman from the Berkeley Buddhist Temple, Tara Umemoto. And her thoughts were, so these collection of essays were from young people, millennials, who are active in Buddhist communities in various traditions. And I don't know how they came up with Tara, but Tara was one of those who was invited to share an essay from the Shin tradition. And her theme was, how did it go? I see the future, how I see the future of Buddhism. And she expressed it as inclusivity, change, kindness, and community. I see Namo Amida Butsu. And I said, whoa. And that's what I presented to the selection committee. This is what our vision should be, from the voice and heart of the young person who's going to be the future of the Sangha. So this is what I was encouraging, the idea of trying to bring about these changes to reflect the sense of purpose for which the next generation will carry on. And that was so inspiring and encouraging for me that I challenged the committee to go read that article. And now I saw it in this month's Wheel of Dharma, that it's been reprinted. And so if you're interested, just go take a look at the current issue of the Wheel of Dharma, which they reprinted Tara's essay. Okay, but I think that's an essay that, for me, could express our sense of vision as well. So it's not just one young person's view, but I think it reflects, to me, the future generation of the BCSF. And I hope we would continue to support and encourage that kind of vision and appreciation. So that was basically the thoughts I have for, not the new year, but just for the sense of what we're doing here now. Oh, by the way, I don't think I mentioned this, or did I? The idea of Hoa. Yeah, this is another thing I wanted to bring up today, was not this last time I went to Emmanji, but the time before. I forgot what the occasion was, but I went to Emmanji, and I think it was their monthly service memorial, but I gave the acronym about SOB. So I shared that, I used the term SOB story instead of Dharma talk or sermon. And then after the service, this young man named Kevin Iwamura, he's a musician, has been recently active with the Sebastopol Temple Sangha, came up to me and says, and he's part Native American. He shared with me a really amazing expression that, the word Hoa. So you know what Hoa is, right? That's a Japanese term we give to Buddhist Dharma talks. That's where Dharma talk came from, actually. Hoa is Japanese. Ho is Dharma. Wa is talk. And somebody translated it as Dharma talk. But Hoa is the Japanese term for Buddhist message. And so Kevin told me, he says, oh, Sensei, you know there's a Cherokee expression, Hoa? And what he told me was, you know what it's, yeah, have you ever heard this expression, Hoa? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's a Cherokee, and it stands for, it's part of an oral tradition. And all native cultures passed the traditions on orally. It was just people speaking, telling stories. And so in the Cherokee tradition, there was a custom of the speaker would begin, I forget the expression, I'm about to begin this story. And then the group would respond, Hoa, which stood for, we're ready to listen. That's amazing. Hoa, ready to listen. Our hearts and minds are open to receive the Dharma. So, rather than Hoa as something that you're given, it's something that we receive to listen to the Dharma. So close or so identical with the spirit of the Shin tradition of listening to the Dharma as Hoa, opening our hearts and minds to the oneness of life. Okay, so with that thought and anticipating, I don't know who's going to do the reading, but they showed me what their meditative reading is going to be for this morning. I was reminded of this other thought that I've written in my little notebook as a way of reflecting upon this moment, this unrepeatable moment, this day, as a beginning of the year 2020. And so I've been playing with this idea of how this year is so significant because it's a leap year. So in other words, we have one more day to do whatever we think we need to do. But also it reflects, you could say symbolically, the aspiration to develop 2020 vision, to open the spiritual eye. So with that, this verse from Kalidasa, look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the varieties of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is just a dream, and tomorrow only a vision. But today well lived makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day, which is the salutation, such is the salutation to the dawn. In other expressions, the past is history, the future a mystery, but for this unrepeatable moment, may we be truly present to realize the gift of Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Naman Butsu, Naman Butsu, Naman Butsu.